This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, we welcome you to Real Talk on this Friday. Excited to have you here. This is a special edition of the show. Our Real Talk Roundtable presented by Urban Timber welcomes three movers and shakers into our Real Talk studio. If you're listening on the podcast, you won't be able to see this unless you check out my Twitter. But if you're watching us live streaming or later on YouTube, you can see this phenomenal masterpiece behind me. This is an original painting by celebrated artist Louis Lavoie. He put this together for us and donated it to the Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic, which goes tomorrow. That's Saturday, February 4th. And this beautiful piece is currently up for auction. You can check out my Twitter profile at Ryan Jesperson. Currently sitting at $350, which is well below its value, to say the least. This is an original work. We're going to wrap up the auction tomorrow. That's Saturday, February 4th at 3 o'clock Mountain Time. You can bid online. You'll be able to bid in person at the Pond Hockey Classic, which I know is where we'll see a lot of that auction action. Of course, all proceeds going to our partner charities. That's Uncles and Aunts at Large and Kids Sports St. Albert. We can't wait to see all of you out at Larry Alexiak Field in St. Albert tomorrow. Her Worship Mayor Kathy Heron's going to be out there to kickstart us off. We've got an anthem, and then we hit the ice. It's going to be a ton of fun. This is pure Canadiana. First puck drops at 10 in the morning. We'll go through till about 5 o'clock. Our friends at Dairy Queen are there with burgers. Of course, we've got a ton of cold beers and a bunch of bonfires burning. Johnny Infamous is going to be out there spinning the tunes.
Perfect weather, too. Just cold enough for the ice, but not too freezing that you're going to hate being out there.
This is the perfect problem to have when you're working on a pond hockey classic. We're hoping that the weather's not too nice that the ice starts to melt.
Yeah, sloppy.
It's way better than wondering if everybody's going to be able to feel their extremities, feel their fingers and toes at minus 30. So everything gets started tomorrow in St. Albert. You can find all the details on our website at ryanjesperson.com under the events link. Now, typically, of course, our best friend, Supriya Dwivedi, joins us on Fridays. She's taken a couple of weeks out of the spotlight, and we wish her and her family well. It means that we get to kick off our Real Talk Roundtable right out of the gates today, and we're going to get into it. I mean, and this is an issue that we talk about on the show. Sometimes we flirt with it, sometimes it's alluded to, and sometimes it's spelled out, but the reality has not changed. A recent poll showed that just 4% of women felt like they could confidently and comfortably express themselves at work. Less than 5%. So, enter Maggie. Yeah, that's right. Who is Maggie? What is Maggie? What's this all about? It's my pleasure to say hello to the co-founder of Maggie, Jen von Berendt, and of course her partner, Dani Strang, the other co-founder of Maggie. These two have established an emerging platform where women are invited to unlearn what stops them from expressing their innermost ideas, perspectives, and opinions. They're IPOs, if you will, using journalism within magazines as a catalyst. And we're also very excited to have Erin Davis joining us. Erin is the lead inclusion strategist at Erin Davis Co. She stars in the Magazine Club docuseries, which we're going to learn a lot about, obviously. She's an award-winning expert and inspirational speaker and a global thought leader in the field of diversity and inclusion. To the three of you, welcome to Real Talk. We're so glad to have you sitting around the table.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Happy Friday. You sat around this table off air. The cameras were off. The microphones were put away a while ago. And you and I, having been friends for a while, we're just catching up. And,
it was good,
You had been on this journey in a number of different contexts, bringing me up to speed. How did this whole thing get started?
Wow, it's a juicy story. I was telling Dani yesterday that our goal today, or my goal at least, is to walk out of here with a really big vulnerability hangover.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, if we haven't walked out with those big, overwhelming feelings, it means we haven't gone deep enough. So Ryan, you got to hold us accountable to that.
Yeah.
Well,
we're gonna dig in.
I feel like the vibe of this roundtable is going to be a little bit different. And maybe for obvious reasons, because I feel like sitting at the table that maybe I'm part of the problem.
Ooh, actually, you know what? That's pretty juicy because so Maggie, as you guys will all learn, and the Magazine Club docuseries is about, it does focus on gender equality, it does focus on women, it focuses focuses on a whole lot of other things. At the heart of it is authentic expression.
Yes.
And we're so excited to explain how it all comes together. But in terms of you being part of the problem or men versus women, that is just a binary that Dani and I are not willing to put ourselves in that box. We love men. We're not blaming any one patriarchy. It's about systems that aren't working for all of us.
Okay. So
Yep. And a big tagline that we use, and you can take this, maybe we'll get a t-shirt for you to wear around in the studio.
Sure.
Is that if women only care about this, it's not going to move the dial.
Nothing's
and
gonna
so
change.
men and all genders, quite frankly, are partners in unlearning. And our belief is that by focusing on women being themselves, can they be themselves in the boardroom? And that poll that you shared, and we've got some fascinating studies that we want to mention today as well that are really a core of our why. By focusing on women, and if you think about it, allowing women to step into their authentic expression confidently and being celebrated for doing so, that paves the way for men to do the same in a different way.
We're all in this together.
We're all in it together.
As cringy as the tagline is, it's very true. So how did it all start? It started 7 years ago with Dani, myself, this wonderful woman named Melissa, and we got together. We were looking for something to catalyze professional growth for ourselves and to really spark our nerdy minds and to actually help us with getting out there, being more confident around the boardroom table. We couldn't find anything. We were noodling around with things. We were like, we could start a book club, but we don't have time to read a book every month because we're working 70 hours a month. So we picked magazines, exceptional journalism within magazines to be specific. And it started out as this group of women who would get together and discuss polarizing, topical things. And there wasn't a lot more intention around that other than that it was a safe space. It was okay to disagree. We were just going to expand ourselves.
Really cerebral conversations about topical things. Yeah.
And it was great. It really did. Like Dani and I can tell stories, and in our docuseries, our 6-episode docuseries, we really dig into what that original magazine club did for us. But then life happened. We disbanded. People went into different places in their careers, and it was through Dani and my very significant burnout experiences in the corporate world that we came together, and we just said this thing that we had created before was kind of magical. We recognized a problem, which Dani's going to explain with some juicy details. My favorite word right now. Can you tell? Juicy.
go with it.
And we decided that we needed to augment this thing to help a ton of people. We wanted to scale it, create a community, a platform. And yeah, I mean, the docuseries itself came about because we knew that we had this problem identified, this awesome solution that was very unique. We started applying for grants. And the first grant we got was a film grant. We did not necessarily want to make a film. We're not filmmakers.
Well, you are now.
Now we are.
I was going to say, you may not have been filmmakers, but you are now.
Can I say how weird it was to put that on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Filmmaker?
Filmmaker, absolutely. Because there's this stuff around, well, who's giving me permission? Or like somebody needs to validate the fact that I've done this.
Well, it's kind of a big word, like filmmaker. It's like it's like people that put philanthropist on their bio.
Yes, but we truly are filmmakers. And, that I want to pause on that part of the story for a minute. And I really hope that we spend a big chunk of the time talking about the docuseries today. And as you mentioned earlier, Erin was a huge part of the docuseries. But when women have ideas, Jen and I sort of talked to us, and it's like, great, we have this idea. We want to help women feel more confident in that boardroom with their authentic IPOs, those ideas, perspectives, opinions.
Or around the dinner table.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people, right, Erin? There's going to be women in particular, but people that are listening to this that are going to go, hey, listen, I feel like ignored and undervalued or maybe even insecure in certain scenarios, but I'm not in a boardroom. This is just my everyday life.
Yeah, I think, part of the work that I do is around how do we get to this place of inclusion. And you mentioned this earlier about maybe I'm the problem. No, we're all in this journey to get to a place of inclusion, but we have through the magazine club and the work that Maggie's going to start doing and is doing that women are not able to fully express themselves, that we've identified a problem, and here is a very direct solution to start to build that confidence. And I see that outside the boardroom. I see that with women all the time not being able to achieve their highest potential and seeing physical barriers in their way, but also invisible barriers. And that is part of this. How can we create a safe space for them to have conversations together?
All right, well, let's meet some of the people behind the magazine club.
I'm a woman. We are conditioned to people please. We are conditioned to keep our voice silent so that we don't rock the boat, we don't create waves. But what that creates is systemic self-betrayal.
It brought up questions in me. How many other women are feeling as suppressed as I felt?
We can so buy into the narrative that promises us all of our heart's desires if we only do everything right, but it's all a lie.
I've been told so many times that you're not worth it, you're not gonna get there. I've been underestimated so many times, and now I love it. Because let me show you what I'm gonna do.
I love that. People listening on the podcast will recognize that last voice. That's Bean Gill, who's a force of nature. I'm watching The National last night, and all of a sudden you see a promo for her new show come up.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Ooh, it's going to be so good.
We knew her before she was famous, but she's just kicking ass right now. So tell us about these people that we just heard from.
These people, we have over 20 amazing people who star in this 6-episode series, and most of them are from Edmonton. We've got some people that flew in to participate in this, but they're incredible subject matter experts. They are psychologists, they are doctors, they are people like Erin Davis. We have Cheryl Watson, who's a former mayoral candidate.
Yeah.
So much diversity there, and these lived perspectives as well as being subject matter experts. When we got into the directing people and really pulling out this authentic expression from them in the film, I think everybody cried at least once. Wasn't our goal, but it got really real. So they went into their subject matter expertise for us, and then they went into their humanity for us.
So when we look at these numbers, and Erin, I'm curious for your take on it. I mean, it's a striking number, 4%. I'd be curious to know, like, generally, like, writ large, or if you talk to men, what would be the number with men? Do you feel confident expressing yourself in the workplace? An astounding 99% said yes. There's maybe a bit of a difference. There's a bit of a difference in the dynamic. So why? What do we know about this and the root of it and the history, and like, can we go back?
Yeah, no, for sure. And there's so many statistics out there in terms of women not being able to achieve and reach that highest potential that they are capable of. I think that there is a big component in the corporate world where we compare ourselves. We compare ourselves to what success looks like. We haven't had the conversation about what does success look like for me? What do I want that to look like? And another really fascinating statistic is women not actually putting their name forward for positions, for roles, even getting into the boardroom. There's an organization out there that's focused on giving education and awareness to women so that they can feel that confidence to say, like, my voice matters and I belong at this table. But the stat I'm thinking of is women will only apply for a job if they are 100% qualified, where men will look at a position and go, probably 60% of that qualifies me. I'm going to put my name in the hat. And so we see this time and time again where women are not putting themselves out there. They're not putting themselves forward. There's this missing gap with my practice has been around confidence, but it's also about I don't feel comfortable in these spaces. I don't feel this sense of belonging. And belonging has been a big thing that we'd also been talking about, right?
I love that you said these spaces, because what the Magazine Club docuseries and what Maggie, our organization, is targeting is people, but also environments. Because you can do all the work you possibly can on yourself, but if you are in an environment that harms you, or if you're in an environment that perpetuates some of these systems and suppression, what are you going to do? The environment really needs to be looked at as well.
Mm-hmm. So is society, generally speaking, starting to look at that environment? Like, as you asked more and more people from different professions, different lived experiences, what did you determine about how people feel about whether or not progress is being made, or whether or not this is being taken seriously, or whether or not it's even on the radar in some places?
So it's interesting that we call it systemic suppression for a reason, right? Like it's just so, when you think about, Ryan, how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, a lot of years.
There's habits, there's conditioned behaviors that you are just used to, and they're in your subconscious. They're not even happening. And so within the magazine club, and we conducted our own research, by the way, we talked to about 56 women at the end of 2021, and we asked them, in your current work environment, do you feel confident to express those IPOs? And we got basically the same result. Only 2 women said yes to that. By the way, one of those women who said yes was Erin Davis, and only because she just started her own business.
Yeah.
And the other woman who said yes was Bean.
Who also owns her own
business.
So she's able to authentically express her opinions, ideas, perspectives.
And so then when
IPOs.
we went back to those women, our follow-up question was, okay, so when you were coming up against a barrier, and this in the magazine club, we call our better not reflex, and we explore it in depth in the docuseries. It's you get a download of an idea, a perspective, or opinion, and then all of a sudden your body has this very real somatic response that says, you've had experiences before where you share something, whether it's around the boardroom table, in a community, family, friends, whatever that might be. And on the other side of your expression, there is trauma. There is negative experience. And so naturally over time, your body builds up a neurological pathway to do the thing it's supposed to do, to protect you.
And
right?
trauma can be being ignored as well. It's not just someone laughing at your idea or not listening to you.
Sure.
Because when you can't be like authoritative as your authentic self, that adds up. That adds up and adds up into from little T traumas to a big T
and we
trauma.
know from Ashley Melky, another great Edmontonian
She's
business
the founder
owner.
of Hildenberg and Burke, right? Did I pronounce that correctly?
No, Ashley Melky is actually the founder of the Grief and Trauma Healing Center in Edmonton. She's taught 40 under 40. If you haven't had her on your show yet, Ryan, she's a must.
She's one of those friends of a friend. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. And so she participated in our docuseries as well. And what we learned from Ashley is, so I'll take my career as an example. I define my first 15 years of my career as my one-way ticket to loss of sense of self-ville.
Zinger.
The zinger, yeah. The abandonment that we go through to fit in, to achieve success, to get the promotion, to be seen as amenable around the table, because that gets us reward. And slowly but surely over time, that creates these habits and these behaviors in your body that are literally like ironclad walls. And Ashley tells us through the latest neuroscience that over time, those small but insidious exposures that you slowly learn that your authentic expression is not valued or appreciated in the same way as your male counterparts, that has the same impact on your brain as a big T traumatic event. Big T traumatic events are things like environmental disasters, being diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, divorce.
So these things add up over time, and they lead to, based on Ashley's research, they lead to chronic burnout. They lead to a bunch of physical illness. They can even lead to suicide. Like, it's a big deal. It's a real problem.
And can we just, when we say burnout is a big word right now, it's a buzzy word right now. And both Jen and I, there's burnout, the emotional exhaustion that you feel, and that's real. And when Jen and I say that we went through burnout, what we mean is our adrenal systems completely gave up. At 32 or 33 years of age, I was looking at being thrown into perimenopause because I had been operating at such a heightened level of stress response. So when I started to unpack my burnout experience and the big part of Jen and I moving the Magazine Club docuseries from pie in the sky dream one day to actually being a real thing is recognizing that it was that suppression and the slow and subtle abandonment of my authentic expression that is a big factor to why I burned out.
There's a great feature, by the way, on Ashley Milky. I'm just noticing they're a good friend of the show, Edify.
Yes.
People can check out edifyedmonton.com. Ashley Milky, a top 40 under 40 in 2021. And as we're talking, I'm taking a look at that feature. If people want to read up on her and learn a little bit more about the Grief and Trauma Healing Center, we'll definitely get her on the show. By the way, Rachel Milky is the founder of
There we go.
Yes.
I'm like
Connection.
I'm like, I knew the name was ringing a bell for some reason.
And we do spend, in episode 2, we do spend a significant amount of time chatting with Ashley about the connection of suppression, of those IPOs to burnout. And like, what's wild to me, Ryan, is we've never seen, we're at like a historic height of emotional exhaustion and burnout in women. And we haven't seen this low of labor engagement of women in the workplace since the 1980s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, let's loop in our live chat, because these are like the most engaged media consumers in Western Canada, and I want to make sure that we're hearing their voices. Ben says this is really disheartening to hear. He says, I honestly don't even know what to say or comment. He says this is not the world and community that I grew up with in a rural bubble. He says everybody seemed to be accepting, supportive, loving to everybody. Megan says, isn't it wild how empowering the people around you gives people the confidence to express those ideas? And then in all caps, who would have thought? Megan goes on to say, they cut you down continuously and make you feel small. She says, Dani just hit the nail on the head. Oof. And Kathy says, I've been encouraging my cousin to go for jobs, even though she's not 100% qualified. She's got real world experience that is just as good as any schooling.
Absolutely. I think we have to remember this, right? There's this component of how am I building my own confidence and remembering that I'm not the only one who's going through these experiences. So how can I get into these rooms to have the conversation, to hear someone else's story, and for the story to be validated that these environments are not working. The status quo is not working. It's causing women to not achieve their highest potential. It's causing them to leave the workplace. And I talk about this in the docuseries. I left the corporate world because I didn't fit in. I couldn't find my place, so I had to create it myself. And I think we're starting to see more and more of that happening.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Can we talk about your road to becoming an inclusion strategist? I was curious to know, is that because you felt excluded for so long?
Well, it's interesting. It's a long story, and it started with curiosity, and it really was, why am I applying for these jobs and not getting them? Am I not good enough? I don't know, cue Taylor Swift. Am I the problem? It's me. Realistically, I started to question my own credibility. Was I not good enough? And then I started looking at the research. So I think this is another really important part about what you will see in the magazine club is this is grounded in research. It's not just, it is what people are feeling, like this is a part of it, but there's been a ton of research talking about these barriers. And I did not exist in an environment where my skills were seen as valuable, where I looked like what success looked like. And so it was a 10-year journey to getting to a place of saying, you know what, I now have the confidence. I'm going to go out on my own. And listen, for everyone who's listening, it's been amazing because one, I have the community of support, and I'm creating that environment in which I can be my authentic self.
Mm-hmm. And we need more people to do that. We need more people to go out there and say, like, this is the environment we need. This is the example. One of the stats that is really the heart of what Dani and I are doing is the research, our own research, and giant textbook called The Silent Sex says that women participate at 2/3 the rate of men in critical conversations. And critical conversations...
Even all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Yes. And so the representation is not there. So they participate at 2/3 the rate of men. But that's just participation. And critical conversations, just to clarify, that means where decisions are being made for groups of people, the Supreme Court, great example. Participation is not necessarily authentic expression. So you're there, you're saying something. Is it what you really think? Because the diversity and the inclusion, the diversity, we don't get to utilize that. We don't get to absorb that if you're not expressing authentically. But how many women are expressing authentically out of the smaller subset that say anything at all? Our research says not very many. Your research says not very many, right?
Yeah.
So that is that gap in the research that we're digging into. And that authenticity is the thing that the Maggie practice is designed to build up your expression practice.
I wonder if it's a good opportunity. Stories coming to mind, and I share the story in the Magazine Club docuseries. One of the things that we did with the docuseries is, we wanted to have experts and we wanted to have science and research and all of these really important things to us so that the world knows we're not fluff. We're anchored in real stuff. And But it's also about these really impactful, powerful women and men, and as well, men organization, Next Gen Men. We'll come back to that one in a second, but telling their vulnerable stories. And one of the stories that I shared, if we can give a real example of not feeling comfortable or safe, or knowing that there are real repercussions on the other side of your expression. I was consulting to an organization, and it was at a time where Alberta had just changed their labor law rules to instead of you having to be in an organization for a year to qualify for parental leave, it went down to 3 months. And interestingly enough, Alberta was one of the last provinces to make that shift. I digress. But in the boardroom table, this organization that I was consulting with, one of the men in the room sat back, folded his arms, and said, it's completely selfish for a woman to become pregnant or even try to conceive within the first 2 years of their employment with an organization.
Ouch.
And at the time, I was going through my own very intense fertility journey. And it was so interesting to me how it wasn't a conversation about parents. So many women go back to the workplace early, and we're seeing more and more dads take on more and more parental leave. But when these big shifts happen in society, it's interesting how it always comes back to motherhood and women. And in that moment, there was absolutely no way that I could express my experience safely, confidently, because the rest of the people in the room, because of the power dynamics, started agreeing with this man.
That might have been a career limiting
limiting move. Absolutely.
And probably not might have been if it's being spelled out that clearly or that confidently, right?
Well, let's go back to that comment you read out earlier about what can I do? It's in those moments when you hear those conversations start going, hold on, like, let's actually talk about that, because that's maybe the way we used to think, but this is not the way that society wants to embrace what it means to be a parent, what it means to exist in the working place, what it means to show up and be our authentic selves, right?
But and the feelings of, another question that we, in that same research that we did with women, we said, okay, so you fall prey to your better not reflex, like I did in that experience. You don't say what you need to say that would actually shift the conversation, move the needle, create learning opportunities for everybody who's in that. And you walk away with it, and then you feel feelings of guilt, of shame, of remorse.
Yeah, that echo in the back of your head. I should have said something. I could have said something.
Yeah.
Whether the subject matter is as serious and heavy as what you're saying, or whether it's something about an innovative way to approach something else at your company, or like the grocery list at home, whatever it is. If you don't say that thing, it adds up, and that echo in your mind.
Okay, so you we're hoping. I mean, you're wishing. This is like my buddies when they go out all night drinking and don't drink a single water. It's like they're just waiting for the pain later. And you want a vulnerability hangover. You're asking for it. So can I get personal? Because like the very first time you and I met in person, like for people that don't know, Jennifer Von Berendt's a bit of a big deal in Edmonton's design community. I can even tell in your face right now. You're like, where are you going with your question?
Hey, no, but we're getting real.
You remember the very first time we met in person? It was in a suite at Rogers Place at an Oilers game, and there was a bunch of big shots in that room. And to be honest, Jen, the very first time we met, you were commanding the room. Like you were, and then I'll be honest, because when I meet somebody new that really intrigues me, and I told you as much, you made a real impression on me. I learned a little bit more about you, and I found out that you were sitting on all these construction boards, and you were the director of this and the boss of that, and the straw that stirs the drink. And so it would not have been apparent to me. The point I'm making is that your surface presentation was that not only was everything fine, but you were actually taking names and kicking ass. And then your journey embarks. Right? So for you, what was it? Because I would say, like, some people, their story of saying, I feel suppressed, or I feel underappreciated, or I feel intimidated, or I don't feel like I can be myself. You weren't presenting any of that.
You're so right. You're absolutely right. And this is something that it's twofold. So one, in the docuseries, there's this juicy moment where I admit that for a long time, I didn't think that there was a patriarchy. I didn't think that women were still suppressed because I wasn't experiencing that, at least not in the workplace. I was walking around with my big JVB energy, and I was doing great things, and I felt equal with the men. I felt heard. But so I don't have a better not reflex in the boardroom. I say what I really think, and I have no qualms about that. But I do have a better not reflex in my personal life. And this is something that Dani and I discovered. We were having dinner and I was like, I can't wait to help all these women get past their better not reflex and authentically express, because I don't have one. So obviously I should be able to teach them this. And she started laughing at me. And she was like, Jen, you just told me a story where something happened to you last night and you went and stayed at a hotel because you had a fight with your partner instead of calling one of your friends or your family members to go stay with them. You literally, I couldn't get past my better not reflex to just call someone in my personal life. So that's one aspect of where does your better not reflex lie? Because I personally believe that everyone, man or woman or any gender, does have one, but women fall prey to it more often.
Well, and I would also add that you look at Jen and me and Erin at the peak of our corporate careers, before all three of us exited our corporate careers, and on the outside looking in, it's very similar to a lot of the, conversations that are going on around suicide, right? Like you never, ever know. From the outside coming in, you never know. Yeah, absolutely. All three of us showed up. We were kicking ass and taking names and owning it. But with the system and with saying the things and doing the things and showing up in a way that we knew deep down intrinsically was just not authentic. Well, and so it's not that we weren't talking or commanding a boardroom. It's the better not reflex is also, you can speak, just don't tell them what you really think.
Yes. The other aspect of my situation was you can be an unknowing subscriber to a harmful system. And I was unknowingly, because it wasn't seeming to harm me until after years and years of working 65, 70 hours a week, it did start to harm me.
Because you saw that as the formula of success. And I wonder, even this like pathway to burnout is that you don't know you're on it until you're like way on the other side. No. And then you start to look back and go, oh, wait a second. I wasn't really showing up as myself. I was showing up in a world that wasn't built for me, that was not built for me to succeed in. And now I'm starting to look back and think, was that authentically me? Because that's my challenge for women is, are we really like living in our authentic selves right now? Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of trauma that we may not have even like picked up on until we exit, till we leave, till we get to a place of burnout.
And there was a brilliant, I can't remember who said it in the docuseries. I'm usually pretty good. I'm like, I lived in this spreadsheet.
You just say, you say, I don't want to tell you who said it. You got to check it out.
There we go.
That's right.
That's the turnaround.
But if you talk to women who got to that point of kicking ass, taking names, the title, they will tell you flat out that they have made some pretty significant sacrifices with their own authentic expression to get there. And then the challenge is, and this is what I found, that sure, we're starting to see more women in the C-suite, more women in that VP level. But when I was there, and this was just before I burned out, I never felt more suppressed. And that was at the time when Jen and I were participating in the original magazine club. And so I would go to my leadership meetings and I would be hitting up against my better not reflex like an ironclad wall, knowing that, and also testing the waters a bit with safe topics, safe things, and then, not being heard. And a few minutes later, my male colleague saying a very similar thing and being super celebrated for that. That those things over time, they really, truly pick away at you. But it was then being in the magazine club at the same time as this senior leadership table that I was at, and with these women feeling celebrated as my ideas, perspectives, and opinions, like they were welcomed, they were encouraged, and going, wait a minute, okay, maybe it's not me.
Maybe it's the environment.
Maybe it's the environment and those systems.
I had a really great comment along those lines about workplace culture. Artie Miss says it all comes down to management. That's where the corporate tone is established. We're having a bunch of people like spilling their guts in the best way on the live chat right now. So I'm going to get to that in just a second. You're hearing from Dani Strang, Jen von Berendt, and Erin Davis. We're talking about Maggie. And if you want to learn more or check it out while we're talking, you can look at joinmaggie.org. You'll also find links to the docuseries there, and we're going to talk more about that in just a second. You know, every single Friday right here on Real Talk, the Real Talk Roundtable oftentimes happens in person around this white oak masterpiece that was designed and delivered by our friends at Urban Timber. Look at this thing. Are you kidding me? But Urban Timber is about so much more than just beautiful custom tables. If you check them out online right now at urbantimber.ca, you can check out their reclaimed boxcar collection. These are pieces crafted from reclaimed rail car planks that have traveled millions of miles across the continent. If you love a good story, the character here, from the wear and tear of cargo and freight being dragged across the floor, these massive planks are cleaned and sanded and then filled with epoxy, just like our table, finished with a food-safe coating. Each one of these custom tables are unique. There's never one that'll look like the other, but they do countertops too. I mean, you want a stunning kitchen setup that will knock people's socks off. What about a countertop anywhere in the house? What about shelving like we have here in the Real Talk studio? Plus, of course, custom flooring and beautiful wood paneling. If you can dream it, they can do it. The brand new, beautiful Urban Timber showroom is open in West Edmonton Tuesday to Saturday from 10 to 4 p.m. Bring the story home with Urban Timber. Hey, and then we can look to the outside of our living space. I feel intimidated doing this by one of Edmonton's hotshot designers sitting right next to me. You ever worked with Eden Landscaping? They do a lot of good work. Eden Landscaping is Edmonton's custom landscape builder, more than 20 years of experience. But there's something that sets Eden apart from other landscaping companies. They're respectful to your budgets, number one. And then number two, there's nothing construction-wise. This is a bold claim. I understand fully the ramifications of what I'm saying. There is nothing construction-wise that you can ask for that they can't build for you. I asked Mike, the owner-operator at Eden, what are you most proud of? He says, I love coming into jobs where they've fired the landscaper and then they bring us in to fix it. He's like, those are the best ones. Water features, retaining walls, outdoor kitchens, whatever it is. Beautiful stonework, maybe a new pergola. They do it all. You can check them out. Get the contact ball rolling today at landscapeedmonton.ca, so shovels are in the ground as soon as it thaws this spring. And if you're looking at reinventing yourself, maybe listening to these three, maybe after meeting Maggie, you're realizing this is time to just turn things around. You're going to take up that career goal you've always had in the back of your mind and really make an intentional move. Why not check out athabascau.ca today? It's Canada's open university with world-class accredited online programs and courses. The number one selling feature, as far as I'm concerned, is the flexibility to learn at your own pace. You want to take off to Costa Rica for a month? You've got an illness in the family? Something unexpected pops up. You're not falling behind in your undergrad, graduate, even doctoral programs because you're designing the experience at Athabasca University. You can get the ball rolling, check out how it works, learn more about programs and courses, and of course, contact the registrar via their website, athabascau.ca. Well, if you're joining us just right now live streaming on the Mixlr audio app presented by California Closets, we're talking to the co-founders of Maggie, the root of that, the Magazine Club, Dani Strang, Jen von Berendt, and the lead inclusion strategist at Erin Davis Co. It's Erin Davis around the table as well. Should we get to some live chat comments and loop people in? I feel like we're having coffee with about 200 people right now, which is pretty sweet.
Let's hear it.
A lot of, Tracy, and it sounds to me like Tracy, I don't know, maybe Tracy works in the business. She's almost talking like kind of a career counselor or something like that. She says, my advice to job seekers and career changers, try to get an information interview or try to job shadow with a company that you're interested in working with. She says, workplace culture is different oftentimes, for example, rural, urban, or small versus large business. Government, for example, is also completely different, but similar to a large corporations, and career coaches can help. I wonder if Tracy is a career coach. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, no, it does sound like Tracy's a career coach. And I think what I hear in there is like, have the conversation, talk to some other people, understand the culture, and especially from a workplace perspective, what is it going to be like when I show up? Am I going to be able to authentically express myself? Am I going to be able to have the deep conversations? Am I going to have the flexibility? That was another really good point too, of the world's changing. Like I was just reading, we are in our 4th industrial revolution. Like this whole conversation of AI and how we need to get on side with technology, and that's going to be shaping the workplaces that we're working in. Can I enter this space and be my authentic self? And, you know, I want to tell this story, and I'm like trying to figure out what the best way to bring it in. But these are not challenges like here in Edmonton as we sit around this table. This is challenges all across the world. And I remember sitting at like a very similar table, maybe a little bit longer. And I was in New York City. And I thought, oh yeah, like we're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion at this boardroom table. Everyone that lives in New York, they've got this figured out, right? The big city, you made it. And we start having these conversations, and they're like, these women cannot express themselves, do not see where their careers are going, are having a really hard time in this like conversation of inclusion. Things need to change. And it's this big moment in my life where I'm like, it's not just here in Edmonton.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
I think that's the testament to what we truly believe. Like, women do not lack the education. They're more educated than ever. They do not lack the experience
or the
professional
confidence.
or the confidence. And so again, back to women are not the victims. It's the systems that we're up against.
Can I read this from Brittany? Brittany says, what timing? Hey, you never know when something like an episode of Real Talk or an interaction with someone's just going to kind of like stop you in your tracks, and it's exactly what you need. Brittany says, thank you for a great conversation on this. She says, I really needed this, but I wonder how women don't lose their authenticity in reaching and achieving career goals.
That's a big one because we still want career goals. We still have them. We want to move the needle more than ever. And to Erin's point about diversity and belonging not actually being integrated even in the most sophisticated places, we've got these check boxes like you're here, you're there, but can we educate more people so that we all understand the value of creating those safer spaces, those more truly inclusive environments so that women don't lose their selves? But another way is, well, I'm just going to pitch the Maggie practice because Dani was saying that in her corporate experience, when she was kind of getting ground down and not being able to say what she really thought, she was having something called positive corrective experiences in our little magazine club. And a positive corrective experience is when that neural pathway that you have in your brain, that's a super highway because you've always done it that way. You've always just stuffed it down, better not reflex, or you've always
better be amenable,
or like I used to do, just push yourself so hard. But to Brittany's point, to the point of burnout or really sacrificing something, sacrificing your authentic self, that positive corrective experience starts to carve a new pathway. And your body knows. Your body feels this, oh, on the other side of my authentic expression is safety and
celebration.
You build up
belonging,
that muscle.
Belonging.
Value.
Yeah. And I think we also have to remind, like, this is the work that I do every single day where we're also trying to build the environments that are more inclusive. So as you are working on your career goals, as you're thinking about where you want to show up and do your work, you can start to say, is my company actually thinking about this? Are they actually creating those spaces? Do they want to hear my authentic voice and bringing that forward? And maybe there's this opportunity to bring the Maggie practice into organizations and start to say, let's create these safe spaces. Let's hear these voices that haven't been heard in their authentic way before. And then take that knowledge and say, how do we create a better working environment? Because again, I said, like, the status quo is not working for a lot of people. So we've got to create change.
We asked women, what are you doing when you have that better not reflex and then you have that hangover and you're like, oh, I should have said something. What are you doing to get past that? And they just say, what do they say, Dani?
I just tell myself to say the thing next time.
And how's that working out for you?
It's not. It's not. And so Jen and I knew, and through our own healing from our burnout, that women need a tool to help them get into action. So I kind of want to bring in Toastmasters. Everybody around the table knows what Toastmasters is, right?
Yeah, they teach you how to get up and speak in front of groups,
teach you
right?
how to,
Am I oversimplifying what it does?
That's exactly it. So here's the thing though, Ryan, like Toastmasters never promises you that they're going to get rid of your nerves in public speaking, right? But Toastmasters is anchored in practice. Let's say Jen wants to be known for public speaking specific to design. Well, you don't have to curate the best design content to be a public speaker. You have to get up over and over and over again in front of a crowd, over and over and over again, and talk about the benefits of square eggs. Like, do you know what I mean?
I can be very convincing about square eggs.
I'm sure they don't roll off the counter.
Are you joking? Is this a real thing?
This is a real, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that'll be next Friday.
I'm a 4-H kid, so I'm used to impromptu speeches, and it's not about the content.
No, I mean actual square eggs.
No.
Is that okay.
Really?
Well, there's square watermelons now, so
That's the thing.
no, there actually really are. They're easier to ship, and so they've genetically. I know that this is not where we need to take the conversation, but they have genetically modified them. And I think they grow them.
Grow them in a box.
They grow them in a box.
Oh my
And so they fill out the
gosh.
box, and then they can ship them more easily.
Yeah, you have to go to our website to learn about the square eggs. So.
Okay. Are you talking about joinmaggie.org? Is that what you're talking about? If people can go check it out. Hey, so we've got a great comment here from Greg, and I appreciate his contribution to the conversation. And Greg says that, a lot of times feeling suppressed also suppresses good ideas and new creative solutions to problems. And it's in the benefit of management to encourage new ideas. So, Erin, you say the status quo is not working for everybody, but it's sure working for some people. And so there are, I'm sure, corporate leaders or culture leaders or people in positions of leadership that understand, and they hear this, they hear about, we need to have an EDI strategy, and everybody's talking about you need to have equity, diversity, inclusion. We need to have a policy in place that we should, and everybody's doing it. And then some people are probably like, that's a great idea, and other people are probably like, oh, you got to be kidding me, right? So do you find that big organizations or small, or what do you find with regards to the prominence or the sort of the recurring nature of people that have to be almost dragged kicking and screaming to take this seriously or to find actual legitimate, tangible value in it?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one because there is a very strong business case to what Greg was talking about in terms of when we create environments in which people can create, innovate, and bring their true ideas forward, that we actually get better outcomes, that we actually see the bottom line. We do better as an organization. So there's hard data on that, but it also means that people might have to, not only be focused on themselves, and we need to think about how are we lifting up others who may not have the same access that we do, that don't have these tight networks of individuals that they can go and have conversations with. This has been a big lacking. It was for me in my career, and there's a joke that I say in the docuseries about having to go and play golf every Saturday because that's where the conversations happen. And I don't really love golf. And so I proudly say that I'm no longer golfing because I don't want to exist in those spaces. But how are we convincing senior leaders to get on side with this? There's a lot of pressures. There's investors that are saying that if you do not look at bringing in diversity to represent the communities in which you serve, then you are not achieving your goals. So there's sort of the hard, heavy hand. But I think you can get through, and the work I do is connecting the head and the heart. And this is something that I think every single person listening can connect to, is we are, if not anything but human. So how are we creating these human experiences to truly connect? Otherwise, we're just robots showing up and doing things like everybody else. That's boring.
And if you have a bunch of robots that think the same and act the same and want the same things,
Absolutely.
You're not going to get, as Dr. Kristen Leach says in our docuseries, friction creates better stuff. The fact is, divergent opinions absolutely produce more innovation.
100%.
And that's it. We need that. That's innovation in your company, whether you're selling square eggs or other widgets that need to be more innovative, or whether you're trying to change a political system. Change happens because the right voices are at the table. But if you go to the G20 summit and the largest delegation is not a country, but it's the oil producers, I might have that fact wrong, but
no, that was real. That
happened. Are those the right voices at the table for global climate change? Just as an example.
Oh, man. I mean, well, that's an interesting one. I think you do need those voices at the table.
Yes, you need them.
But I also understand why people are like, I mean, at COP27 and recent climate change conferences, including in Canada this year, people were pissed off that oil companies were involved. I also feel like there's a case to be made for making sure that those corporate leaders and the companies that can influence behavior. Like, let me start from the what demands oil, obviously vehicles, and then you take a look at what the world's largest vehicle manufacturers are doing, and they're talking about, like, a lot of them EVs. Like, you look at some of the leaders, and like GM and Volvo, and obviously Mercedes is rolling out their new line, and all of these companies are setting some pretty bold targets, and they're coming up quick, right? Now, I'm not naive enough to think that they're not doing that because there's a huge profit model. Obviously there is, but that influences behavior, and then of course, you have other corporations that'll follow suit. So I think obviously it's important to have those voices at the table, but probably not like setting the table or dictating the terms of the conversation.
Exactly. Not half of the table.
Not owning the table.
Exactly. It's the right voices at the table in that diversity, because the friction creates better stuff. So we have to, I truly, in most cases, don't believe that there's necessarily a bad guy or a bad woman or whatever. Right and wrong. It's all so many shades of gray. And so how are all those shades of gray being represented and being discussed? And how are we creating connected knowing, which is a really important principle in our Maggie practice, where I'm just going to try on your opinion for size, for real. This is where diversity and belonging gets real. I actually sit in my seat and I think, what would it be like to be a 65-year-old white man? If I'm a 30-year-old African-American woman, what would it be like, and vice versa? So we want all of those people at the table.
Well, 100%, and I think that there's like, if I can bring the perspective of a man to the table, like, there's a lot of guys that go like, I don't want to be the bad guy, I want to be part of the solution, right? Like, I don't want to be perceived as sort of the epitome or the face of what's inherently wrong. When you talk about political structure, you know who I immediately thought of? Is the force of nature that is Jacinda Ardern, who's just resigned. Look at all three of you. Take it away, because everyone's trying to figure out, and she knows her own business, and she can share what she likes or keep to herself what she likes. But a lot of people are looking, and who knows what her future looks like? I mean, the future is very bright. She can do whatever she wants. But a lot of people are trying to figure out, I don't think she's even 40 yet. She's already resigned from the top political position in her country, a developed country, a ton of promise. But what strikes you about that story?
Oh, so many things. I'll first say, like, thank you for your service. Like, I think that was such a prominent leader for many people around the world, just to see how she stood strong in this. These are my values. This is the country's values. This is how I'm going to lead. So, like, number one,
amazing example
to not be like, we will not forget, but also working in a system that doesn't work for her. Again, like, it's not just Canada, it's around the world, and saying, like, I need some time for my family. Like, that's kind of what I took away from it. And I'm like,
I mean, she was a brand new mom. We all remember that scene where she brought her newborn into the Legislative Assembly, right? And I remember thinking, like, holy shit.
You were going to drop an F-bomb there.
I don't. Well, pretty close.
Pretty close.
Pretty
close.
And being open, and the number of questions she would have got, like, we could just go down a whole pathway in this. But I think the moment of celebration is, like, her future is bright. Now she gets to assess, where's my next sphere of influence? Where am I going to look to create change? And, maybe there's a little bit of like I've bumped my head up against the wall a little bit too many times in this position, and I'm going to hand this over to someone else to lead, and I'm going to go and I'm going to look at something else, and I'm going to see where I'm going to.
It makes me think of it. So many people say it's really lonely at the top, right? It's really lonely at the top. And I want to bring in, so Dr. Kristen Leach, who owns a firm called Title Equality out of Victoria. She's doing great things, actually. One of their big clients is Virgin Mobile, and she participated in our film as well. She has a model called the equity sequence, and it's as simple as, who is this thing designed by, who is it designed for, who is it designed with, and who is it designed without? And so when you look at Jacinda in the role of global politics, was it designed by women? No. For women? No. with women, likely not. Without women, totally. So I can only imagine, and of course these are all assumptions, that loneliness of being that top woman in politics. I mean, she was cut down. Who did she meet with? Who was the other political leader that she met with?
From Finland?
Yeah. And it was like, ooh, girl talk. We are political leaders. That drove me bananas. I was super mad with that one.
There's another like little tool tip to think about, like flip the script, you know, and they talked about that. If it was like 2 male leaders coming to meet, would you be like, oh,
boy talk?
Boy talk. No.
Right,
Are you just meeting because you're the same age? I think that's
Yeah,
what he
that's
said.
what it was,
something
something like that.
Right.
No, we're not.
Well, there was, I saw it. It was like a montage that somebody put together of like 5 or 6 or 7 questions that she faced while in office that were all just wildly inappropriate, like
So,
every
like,
single one of them. And,
cringeworthy, yeah.
and it was, and I almost want to catch myself in the observation I was about to make. Actually, let's
unpack
Let
it.
me say it,
This is a
and let's
safe place.
unpack it. Okay, so I'll keep it real. And I was going to say the grace she displayed in managing or navigating those questions. But that's superimposing an expectation, isn't
Well,
it?
it's talking about conditioning. So we are all, and men are conditioned to experience women as nurturing,
Graceful.
agreeable, graceful. And when a woman doesn't show up that way, but she's just being assertive, that is aggressive because it's not the way you're conditioned to expect a woman.
Right.
So you're saying things that are just in your subconscious that are the conditioning that we're all swimming in, which is why unlearning is one of our biggest hot buttons with Maggie. We're unlearning this condition. Like, I had coffee with this incredible woman yesterday named Jasmine Duncan, who runs events in the city and does all this great cultural stuff. And she just said, like, what did she say, Dani? I shared this with you yesterday.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. But what I will do is I'll bring in, because I think we're on the same path, Roselle Gonsalves, who is the current director. She's got a new title, but her previous title was Director of Inclusion and Diversity at ATB. And she's in our docuseries as well. And she says so passionately that, women are not allowed to be angry at things that are angry making. Like, what would the world have done? What would the world have said if in those moments where things were wholly inappropriate, Jacinda showed anger? You have to hide that. And there's only so much pushing down that you can do. And if we connect this back to mine and Jen's story, like you push down, you push down, you push down, you push down, and then eventually there's no more space to push things down and you have to walk away.
Yes, that's. I remember what Jasmine said. She said, she was telling me about her life, and she said, that's when my unlearning journey began. And when you walked away, when I walked away, when you walked away, for me, that was when my unlearning journey began. And I had to unpack how I was subscribing to this system and figure out how I'm going to navigate the future in a healthy way.
I want to let people know if you want to check out more. I mean, we keep mentioning this docuseries. We keep talking about the magazine club produced through the Tell a Story Hive initiative. You can check it out at joinmaggie.org. You just click on the docuseries link and you can go check them out right there. The Pre-Digital Machine, The Body Knows, Moving Past the What If, The Dance, Just the Beginning, which I love that because a lot of people are going to be listening to this podcast. Someone's like walking their dog right now or they're on their commute home and they're going to go, okay, putting this into practice, or what does this mean for me now? I have that vision of sort of like walking into the table and sweeping your arm across it, clearing the table and letting everybody know you've arrived.
Do it however you need to do it. But I'm also reminded for even the questions that we've gotten, and as I think about the work that I do and I think about the conversations that we have through Maggie, is please say something. Have the conversation. We might get it wrong. So just as we kind of unpack, that wasn't like, that wasn't too uncomfortable.
Was that so
but
bad? That wasn't so bad unpacking it with you.
Talking about
No, I think you might have gone easy on me though.
Oh, okay.
But I remember being in a workplace. I won't even say which one, but a colleague. So I'm sitting there with a colleague, and another colleague comes in, and why am I telling this story? Oh my gosh, as it's coming out of my mouth.
You're in it now.
No, but it was just like he came in and he was like, "What's up?" And he's like, "What are you working on?" He put his hands on her shoulders, and I kind of noticed, and she was like, "Would you please exit my space?"
Good job.
And, right? Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah," but also I was like, that kind of like good on her.
Absolutely.
And also like, what the fuck was he thinking? But it was just kind of a weird situation. But it was like one little moment where an unacceptable behavior was addressed and corrected.
Yes.
But that's like one tiny thing, but a huge thing, right?
Ryan,
Yes.
can I offer a really, like, so we talk
You want to
about...
know who it was?
No, but we talk about positive corrective experience. So the next step for men as our partners in unlearning, and I don't know if you did this or not, but going to that woman and explicitly saying to her, good on you.
Yeah.
On it, I'm not kidding. Like, in that moment, I've been in that scenario so many times, to have a male peer come up to me and be like, hey, I see you. I'm recognizing that thing that happened was wrong. I'm with you on this. Or
huge.
even better, in the public environment.
Right.
This this is where, you know, if we only care about this stuff, nothing is going to change. And it's risky for women to express themselves authentically. It's also risky for men to be like, hang on a second, why is Ron getting all of the credit for this idea when Jen started the ball rolling 5 minutes ago?
It feels risky, and
So we need to speak up, but so do men.
So do men. Absolutely. I love that, Dani. Dr. Gans, you know Dr. Gans.
Yeah, Gans Ference.
Dr. Gans Ference.
What a beauty.
He's such a beauty. He's in our
Guess what?
docuseries.
He's in the docuseries too.
Oh, yeah, is he?
And he speaks so plainly about power dynamics. It's not a zero-sum game. Yes, it is vulnerable for that woman to speak up, and it's vulnerable for that man to have her back. But it's not a zero-sum power dynamic game. So by sharing power, your power increases. And I love how Dr. Gans talks about it, because he laughs. He's like, it's hilarious that people don't realize this. You don't need to hoard your power.
He specifically says it's hilarious that men don't realize this.
By sharing it.
Yeah. And we are challenging, addressing the idea. We're challenging and addressing the action in the moment for that unlearning, not the person. Because we can't
Erin, that's so important.
Take it personally, because we're all on a learning journey. We're not always going to get it right. And that was kind of the point I wanted to make in terms of unpacking it. Have the conversation, say it out loud, talk to someone that you trust and you can have that conversation with, and maybe it becomes broader. But there's a lot of fear. I call it fear of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. So then we don't do anything. And then back to the status quo remains.
Doing nothing is just as bad as doing something.
This is the core
malicious.
of the Maggie practice, and why we have these beautiful magazines on the table, because that fear, very similar to Toastmasters, you have to do a thing over and over and over and over again in order to overcome nerves, fear, whatever.
And
the
to create a
better
new
not
neural
reflex
pathway.
to create it. So what we do, this is what we piloted in the Magazine Club docuseries, is every month we bring a group of women together. And by the way, we tested if we could do this with strangers and we found out that we could. And in the deliberation of exceptional journalism anchored, you know, the Walrus was a massive partner for us.
Shout out the Walrus.
Shout out the Walrus.
Independent journalism.
And Jennifer Hollett, the executive director of the Walrus, was incredible. She's in the docuseries as well. Through the practice of, in expressing my ideas, perspectives, and opinions, I'm going to get this fear. I'm going to get this better not reflex. And if we have a practice where the magazine content literally redesigns the space, recreates the space where women abandon their authentic expression for the needs of the table or the comfort of others. Instead, in a safe space, we want them to say the thing anyway. And they get that positive corrective experience in community, that unlearning in community from the other women that say, you're celebrated, you're welcomed, you're encouraged. And more and more and more and more you do that in a safe space over and over and over again.
You strengthen that muscle.
Your body goes, wait a minute, this is new information here. I'm going to be able to build a new neurological pathway. And so our hope and our vision with the Maggie practice and the magazines being catalysts is that over time, women are going to extend that into not so safe spaces. We want to change how women are showing up in these critical conversations.
Mick Fury in the live chat says, I'll never forget Trump standing behind Angela Merkel, German chancellor at the time, and putting his hands on her shoulders like that. Lou says, who will forget the bright young talent, that MP from Nunavut. He's talking about Mumalak Kakak, who was basically run out of parliament, a young Inuk woman. I remember interviewing, it wasn't that long ago, I actually just Googled, oh, by the way, Jacinda Ardern, 42 years of age. I always like to correct and stay on top of it. Young. I mean, she's entering the prime of her career, and what promise there. You wonder where she'll be a CEO or an executive director or a diplomat or whatever she chooses to be. And I think back, I mean, I remember interviewing Stephanie McLean, the MLA. She was a minister for the status of women out of Calgary. I just checked what year year it was when I talked to her. It was June of 2016, so a while ago, but not that long ago. She was the first woman in Alberta's history to have a baby while holding political office, at least in a provincial government. And you remember, do you remember, like, when she showed up with her baby at the Alberta legislature and people acted like it was like the most earth-shattering development that you could have ever possibly seen? I mean, so this isn't ancient history.
No.
I was just going to say, what's wild is that I actually don't know of that scenario, and I am after this.
Is wild.
Yeah, after this conversation,
She'd be great to talk to.
Totally.
You know what? You know why she's an especially great interview? Because she's a former NDP cabinet minister, and she will rip the NDs and the Conservatives. Like, she is she has seen it all, and she is all about accountability. So shout out to Stephanie McLean. I think it was Calgary Varsity was her riding. This has been a wonderful conversation. We're already an hour, which I can't even believe.
Wow.
And we've got a date. We have a very special edition of Trash Talk coming up with a special guest who's in the bullpen right now, and I can't wait to hand her the microphone. So as we wrap, I want to give the three of you, again, if you're just tuning in, it's Jen Von Berendt, Dani Strang, and Erin Davis, and the website that we're talking about right now is joinmaggie.org. That's where you can learn more about this remarkable project. Maybe something to walk with or something for us to think about, to chew on through the weekend, so to speak, including maybe, I scribbled this down, maybe a message to the next gen men. If one of you can integrate that as we wrap.
We can't leave without giving a huge shout out to the crew and the creatives behind this project, and something that I am immensely proud of. Jen, we are all immensely proud of, that is so rare in the television and film industry, and Ryan, you can probably echo this, is that our crew and our creative team is 100% trans, non-binary, and women led. And it was not an easy, like, at one point in time we had our lead camera woman who moved to Vancouver. And I think this is where so many organizations get to. It's the easy thing to be like, well, we know this cameraman and that cameraman, but we intentionally wanted to keep those stats. And so shout out to Modern Muse Media, who radically supported us, and without Jessie Szymanski's hell yes,
she's great,
the magazine club would not have existed. To Des Malenka of the Creative Hive, who also was a hell yes. Right, we calculated over $250,000 of volunteered time and resources that have gone in, and primarily Edmonton women. And we are just so thankful for Erin Davis, for your voice, for your participation, for believing, well, we've been friends for a long time, and believing that this was something that we could do. The community and the momentum. Jen and I thought that this would be a cool thing that we put on our LinkedIn, right? Filmmaker, like we said at the beginning. And every time we wanted to keep this project small, the women around us in Edmonton said, make it big, make it big, make it big. And so this is a conversation we just watch. It's free. It's on YouTube. And if you want to get in touch with us more, hello@joinmaggie.org.
You hit on community, and that's what it's all about. If we have these isolated experiences and don't talk about them, more of the same just is perpetuated. So Maggie is a community. It's a platform. It's in early stages of a bigger build. We're creating community here. We're so happy to be within your Real Talk community, having this Real Talk. We need to heal in community. So that's a huge takeaway for everyone. We are not, isolation is just not the way. The lone wolf is gone. It's about community. And so that's what we're building.
And thanks to you, Ryan, for creating a safe table.
Oh, I've been looking forward to
community.
This.
Yeah.
This is the whole point of this table. Is to have conversations like this, and I've been eagerly awaited. We don't usually have a roundtable scheduled this far in advance, so we've been really excited about your launch and your post-production and everything that's coming up. And I'm picturing, like, I don't know what she looks like, but I'm picturing somebody with AirPods on right now listening to this, just yelling like, yes, yes. I feel like there's people that are finding their people by hearing this. Erin, last word to you.
Just remember, we can create a more inclusive world one conversation at a time. So thank you to all the voices that contributed to the docuseries, and check it out and then tell your friends.
Yes. In the spirit of community, something that Dani and I have a vision to do is take this on a road show. So if you're listening right now and you want to be a national sponsor and take the Magazine Club docuseries on a road show to create problem awareness, more community, and fix this problem, just give us a call.
People can contact you by your website. Again, it's kind of the hub for everything, joinmaggie.org. That's where you can link to the docuseries. You can learn more about who Maggie is, and of course follow them on Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter as well. It's Jen Von Berendt, Dani Strang, Erin Davis. Thank you for this. I feel like this could have been 3 hours.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have an amazing rest of your
Part two.
weekend.
That's
Real
fine. Part
Talkers.
two.
Hey, over to you. What do you make of what you just heard? Thanks to everybody that's been chiming in on the live chat, but I guarantee that some of you will have more to say, and if so, you know where to find us. Talk@RyanJesperson.com. That's how you get the keys to our inbox. You can hit us up on Twitter as well, and of course our hashtag, the one that we keep an eye on, is Real Talk RJ. That's powered by our friends at Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider. You'll find them online at parkpower.ca. It takes literally less than 5 minutes to compare rates on electricity, natural gas, and internet, and then sign up. Bring your business over to Park Power. There's no service interruption. You don't have to sit on hold for 2 hours with your former utilities provider to break up with them. Park Power does all the work. I can tell you that because we've gone through the process ourselves as a family, and it could not have been easier. The promo code REALTALK23, that's REALTALK23, saves you up to $150, 50 per utility, electricity, natural gas, and internet, when you bring your business to Park Power. Now, once you've done that, you're going to want to get serious about considering working with Kubi Renewable Energy. They're Western Canada's most reputable solar installer. But why choose Kubi? What is it about Kubi? Well, let me tell you. Solar energy is cleaner than fossil fuels. We know that. Solar systems are a renovation that'll increase the value of your home and pay for itself. We know that. Plus, you're going to be able to cut back on your costs, including what can sometimes be unpredictable rates. That's what families are trying to navigate right now with inflation and everything else. You want to know exactly what your monthly budget's going to look like. Kubi's dialed in on that Canada Greener Homes grant, that $40,000 interest-free loan from the feds, pay it up over 10 years. The average solar system is going to cost between $12,000 and $25,000. Likely you're not going to need the full 40. Kubi will do all the paperwork for you, explain the implications. It all starts with a free quote today at kubienergy.ca. If you and the family are going to be getting together this weekend, maybe it's a brunch, maybe it's a dinner, may I recommend, if you're in the province of Alberta, that you swing by one of the 16 Friesen Brothers locations. If it's breakfast, I personally recommend the Ivan's sausage and the sourdough cinnamon buns. Johnny, you got a recommendation for Friesen Brothers on the weekend?
I got a ton.
Knocks your socks off? What's one thing that you always
I always
look
go
for
for the pies because there's a few pies that don't have the dairy in them, and you can get a half. You can get a full if you're going to go all in, but the fresh baked pies are incredible.
I love that. And with the half pie, you can kind of have that guilt-free. You just crush it on your way home. You know, there's only a half pie.
My wife always says to me, "Oh, you're getting the half pie." You're getting the half pie.
You'll find them online at Friesen.com. And I'm so excited over the weekend to hang out with our friends from the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. They're going to be at the Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic tomorrow. They've got the burgers going. They've, of course, got some ice cream treats. It is Dairy Queen after all. We're talking about the Dairy Queens at Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. And if you're looking to really, really steal somebody's heart, to really make somebody's day on February 14th, don't forget, you can start your Valentine's Day celebration on the right foot with a DQ cake, the triple truffle blizzard cake. Can I describe this in just a quick second? 3 decadent truffles, peanut butter, fudge, caramel, a chocolatey topping, a middle layer of the triple truffle blend, and finally a layer of world-famous DQ vanilla soft serve. I feel like triple truffle blend would be a great name for a band.
I think anything tripled is probably
anything
good.
Tripled is
good.
Is very, very good. Well, we're going to try something new. You know, every Friday we wrap our show with easily the most popular 5 minutes of our entire week. It's an exercise where we blow off a little steam, and you send us real emails, and basically I read them at full amplification so everybody can hear what needs to be heard. But we're going to try something a little bit different in this weekly tradition we call Trash Talk. Yeah, that's right. My good friend Kris Cromwell tweeted this week that somebody was misbehaving behind the wheel, and she was typing out a tweet, and I thought this would be perfect for Trash Talk, but I didn't want to read it. I wanted her to read it. She agreed, and so here she is, the first ever Real Talker debut, taking over the mic on Trash Talk. Kris, it's all you.
I'm Kris Cromwell, and on Tuesday, I was riding my bike, and a driver intentionally and maliciously hit me with their car. And I'm here to say to a lot of you, stop it! Stop with the pissing and moaning about cyclists. I get it. You're in your feelings. How dare anyone inconvenience you while you're pushing your climate-controlled Barca Lounger around? But here's the thing. No one cares about your feelings. Driving is a privilege, and you don't have any more right to the road than a human being on a bike. You sound like a bunch of entitled children with your misinformed nonsense complaints. No, cyclists don't break the law at a higher frequency than drivers. 25% of cyclists do in fact bike year-round, and 30% of cyclists are low income with few to no transportation choices. My personal favorite, cyclists don't pay road tax. Road tax literally doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. Fees like gas taxes and registration fees, those go to provincial and federal coffers and is not transferred back to cities to pay for roads. You want to know what pays for roads? Property taxes. You want to know who pays property taxes? Everyone. And everyone has an equal right to access the infrastructure that they pay for. And even if none of that was true, people on bikes are just that. They are people on bikes. They're human beings who just want to get to work or school or lunch without being murdered because a driver thinks their convenience is more important than a cyclist's life. This constant complaining and misinformation about cyclists creates space for awful people who are driving cars to justify harming people on bikes. Your words matter. Cyclists aren't criminals or pests or parasites. We're people. And if you can't share the road with us, your driving privileges should be revoked.
Yeah, that's Kris Cromwell. Nailed it. I love you, Kris. Have an amazing weekend. Stay safe on the road, and make sure you check out Kris's podcast at BIPOCoutside.com. All of you run and subscribe to it right now. She just kicked some serious ass. That was fantastic. We might need to make this a thing.
Yeah.
She absolutely nailed it. And we're going to wrap with this one from Colleen. All right, Colleen works in ag. As a matter of fact, Colleen is a beef producer, and she wrote in after my conversation with Jessica Scott Reed on Canada exporting horses for slaughter, right? You remember that one earlier this week? Go listen to it if you didn't. Well, here's another side of the coin. Colleen says, I feel like Jessica was pushing a narrative, and she's very good at it, to direct people right into her agenda, and it felt manipulative to me. The fact that the vast majority of Canadians are so far removed from farm and livestock and where our food comes from is being used to push this agenda. Like, many Canadians have never seen up close or interacted with farm animals. Most interactions that Canadians have with animals in our urban society are with, like, house pets, like dogs and cats. It's the way that she says, I think that Canadians think, right? She's bringing out an emotional response from folks that only know a part of a story, an incomplete story. She says horses are not just companions and pets in Canada. Many people raise them for the purpose of human consumption, like food, and that's okay. It's very nutritious. Just because it's not a social norm in this part of the world, that's no reason to shut down a $100 million business because some activist thinks that the animal in the system is a pet or a companion. They're big animals. They can live into their 30s. Who's going to save or adopt all these horses in the meat sector? She says, then your conversation rolled into vegetarianism and veganism, and that's a personal choice, and that's fine. And I applaud people for living their choices. I'll never tell anybody to consume something they don't want to. And then the conversation rolled into the carbon footprint. Okay, it's the beef we eat that's upping our carbon footprint. Let's not fuck around and call out some of the totally non-essential things we have in our life that are upping our carbon footprint, that are not the whipping boy that is beef. As a beef producer, says Colleen, I'm sick to death of the narrative of beef being the downfall of the planet. So here is my no bullshit, super short list of things we can all live without and still be healthy humans. Number 1, hot showers. Imagine how much energy is going right down the drain. Not necessary. If we're calling out extras, what about dogs and cats as pets? Clothing, photos, baths, very good food, poo bags, driving them to the dog park. Pets leave a big carbon footprint. Can we live without them? Yes. Do we want to? No. What about crappy toys for kids? How many people have a basement full of cheap plastic toys that are 100% bound for the landfill? Stop at a fast food place, get a plastic wrapped toy, fresh shipped from China. They play with it until you get home, and then it's already garbage. It's ridiculous, says Colleen. What about redecorating your house? What about ripping out your kitchen for an update? What about all new appliances? Don't fucking kid yourself. This is all ending up in the landfill. What about cosmetics? How much energy is used for the aisles and aisles of creams and lotions and potions that are selling a formula of the fountain of youth. Guess what, folks? You're still going to get old. What about all of our time spent online with these cloud server farms taking up enormous amounts of energy? What about plane trips for a quick trip to Toronto? Not necessary. What's the carbon footprint on fresh imported fruit and veg? You can live a long, healthy life without a bite of fresh papaya. What about lawns? Front lawns, back lawns. Why not convert it into a food garden? We can double down on lowering your carbon footprint by not shipping lettuce from California during the winter months. What about fashionable clothes? What about the secondhand stores with bags and bags that you're donating because you're keeping up? What a fucking waste! As a beef producer, it's getting old being the whipping boy for the carbon footprint we're leaving. If people are so concerned, you can make your own efforts to decrease it, and I've spelled it out for you. Colleen says, by the way, thanks for the opportunity to send in a response. I enjoy Real Talk every day. Often think about emailing you, but I never did until now. Colleen, I love it. Agree or disagree. There's always room at the table for perspective so we can consider what others have and then decide if it's for us. It's the whole foundation of what we do. You can send us your trash talk to talk@ryanjesperson.com. We're looking forward to seeing a whole bunch of you, including the team at Local Environmental out at the Real Talk Pond Hockey Classic tomorrow. Make it a great weekend, and we will see you again right here on Monday.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson. Executive producer Josh Dunford. Technical producer John Hicks. General manager Katie Cook-Chivers. Account coordinator Lawrence Derlego. Human resources Lena Shepard. Website design Mike Johnston. Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Randy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.